They were excited to close their buffet. There's 11 or 12 left in casinos, not including local buffets.
The big buffets, at least in the numbers that we saw before COVID, those days are probably gone forever.
Do you remember the feeling? You'd walk into a casino with a crumpled $20 bill, and suddenly, you were royalty. I'm talking about the endless rows of chilled shrimp, the prime rib carved right in front of your eyes, the towers of desserts that seemed to defy gravity. For decades, that was the Vegas promise. But recently, I walked past one of those legendary spots at a major strip resort. The lights were off. The carving stations were ripped out. And just a few feet away, I saw a family standing in line at a fast casual counter, paying $18 for a single lukewarm slice of pizza and $10 for a bottle of water. You have to ask yourself, how did it get this bad? How did we go from feasting like kings for pocket change to being price gouged for a snack? This isn't just a story about inflation or rising food costs. It is something much darker. It is a fundamental betrayal. For over 50 years, Las Vegas had an unwritten contract with us. You bring your gambling money, and we will take care of you. They were willing to lose money on the food just to get you in the door. But the massive corporations running the strip today decided that wasn't enough. They broke the rule. They didn't just want your gambling losses anymore. They wanted to drain your wallet at the dinner table too. The ugly truth is that the death of the buffet wasn't a tragedy. It was a calculated execution. Stick with me, because I'm going to expose the secret corporate playbook that destroyed the cheap meal forever. We are going to walk through the 7 specific stages of this plot, from the original trap that hooked us all to the convenient kill shot of 2020 that they never wanted you to notice. And make sure you stay with me until we get to the truth about the food hall, because I'm going to reveal the financial reality behind them, proving they are nothing more than a scam designed to bleed you dry while making you think you're getting an upgrade. Part 1. The original trap. Why buffets were created. To understand the murder, you first have to understand the victim. We need to go back to the beginning and admit something that might hurt a little. The Las Vegas buffet was never actually about feeding you. It was a trap. A delicious, subsidized trap designed by the mobsters and early casino moguls who understood human psychology better than anyone. Go back to the 1940s, to the El Rancho, Vegas. They introduced the Midnight Chuckwagon Buffet. The price? $1. Even adjusted for inflation, that is absurdly cheap. But the owners didn't see that dollar as revenue. They saw it as fuel. They realized a simple, brutal truth. A hungry gambler leaves the building to find food. And once they step out into the fresh air, the spell is broken. They might go back to their hotel. They might go to a competitor. So, the casinos created a golden handcuffs system. They kept you inside by virtually giving the food away. For decades, this was the core business model. The casino managers were happy to lose $2, $3, or even $5 on every head that walked through the buffet line. Why? Because statistics showed that the average diner would turn around and drop $50 or $100 at the blackjack tables or slot machines within the hour. The buffet was never a restaurant. It was a marketing expense, just like the neon signs outside. It was a symbiotic relationship built on a beautiful lie. You felt like you were beating the system by eating so much for so little. But in reality, the system was keeping you exactly where they wanted you. Fed, happy, and ready to gamble. Part 2. The Super Buffet Arms Race. The Golden Age. Then, in the 1990s, something shifted. The trap evolved into an art form. This was the Golden Age, the era of the Super Buffet. It arguably started when the Rio opened the Carnival World Buffet in 1993. They didn't just offer food, they offered a spectacle. It wasn't about hot dogs and burgers anymore. It was about global cuisine prepared by actual chefs. This triggered a hospitality arms race across the Strip. The Bellagio, the Wynn, Caesar's Palace, they all jumped in. Suddenly, you had buffets serving all-you-can-eat Alaskan king crab legs, prime rib, and caviar. The sheer volume was staggering. At its peak, a single super buffet would go through 8,000 pounds of shrimp and 2,000 pounds of prime rib in a single week. The financial losses on these items were astronomical. We are talking about food costs hitting 60% or 70% of the ticket price, whereas a normal restaurant aims for 30%. But in this era, the casinos didn't care about the food cost percentage. They were fighting for market share. If the Bellagio had crab legs, the Mirage needed lobster. They treated these multi-million-dollar losses as necessary prestige costs. It was the peak of Vegas hospitality. They treated a mechanic from Ohio like a high-rolling oil tycoon. It was the only place on Earth where a regular working-class family could experience true culinary luxury for $20. We thought this generosity would last forever. But we didn't realize that in the back offices, the accountants were watching these numbers with growing horror, sharpening their knives for the moment they could kill the golden goose. Part 3. The corporate shift, from hospitality to profit maximization. Every golden age has an end, and for Vegas, the end began when the mobsters and visionaries left and the MBAs moved in. This is the corporate shift, the moment hospitality died and profit maximization took the throne. In the early 2000s, massive consolidation hit the Strip. Giant conglomerates like MGM Resorts and Caesars Entertainment bought up everything. These weren't gamblers running the show anymore. They were Wall Street executives answering to shareholders who demanded quarterly growth. When these corporate accountants looked at the buffet spreadsheets, they didn't see the marketing magic. They saw red ink. They saw a department that was losing $10 million a year. They introduced a new metric: revenue per square foot. They looked at that massive dining room and thought, if we put slot machines here, or a high-end steakhouse that charges $80 a steak, we make a profit. Right now, we are subsidizing gluttony. The philosophy changed from get them in the door at any cost to monetize every single interaction. They started to resent the bargain hunters. They asked, why are we feeding the low rollers who only play penny slots? Slowly, they started tightening the screws. They cut the quality of the crab legs. They removed the champagne. They raised the prices from $20 to $40, then to $60. But they couldn't just kill the buffet outright. It was too popular, too iconic. They needed a massive external event, a catastrophe, to give them the cover they needed to execute their plan. Part 4. The 2020 Kill Shot. The perfect excuse to close forever. And in 2020, the universe handed them that catastrophe on a silver platter. This brings us to the 2020 Kill Shot. Now, the official narrative, the story their PR teams want you to believe, is that the pandemic killed the buffet naturally. They told us it was purely about safety. They said that self-serve spoons and open food trays were health hazards, and they were closing them down to protect us. That is a lie. Or at best, it is a very convenient half-truth. 2020 wasn't the cause of death. It was the perfect alibi. It was the excuse they had been waiting for 20 years. Think about it. When the casinos reopened, the slot machines were packed. The card tables were full. People were touching chips and buttons that thousands of others had touched. If safety was the only concern, the whole casino would be a hazard. But the gaming floor makes money, so it stayed open. The buffet loses money, so it stayed closed. When the world shut down, these corporations looked at their bottom line and realized they could finally sever the bleeding limb without facing a public backlash. They locked the doors to the buffets, not with the intention of reopening them when the virus passed, but with the secret plan to keep them closed forever. They realized that if they forced you to go to a food hall or a fast casual counter, they could eliminate the food waste, eliminate the massive staff, and turn a loss into a massive profit. They didn't just pause the buffet, they suffocated it in its sleep while we were all looking the other way. Part 5. The Food Hall Scam. Lower costs, higher profits. So, if the buffet is dead, what exactly replaced it? They call it the food hall, and they pitch it to you as a trendy, curated culinary revolution. They use buzzwords like artisan, craft, and chef-driven to make you feel like you are getting a premium experience. But let's strip away the marketing varnish and look at the ugly financial reality. The food hall is arguably the greatest scam in the history of modern Las Vegas dining. Here is the brutal truth. A food hall is nothing more than a glorified mall food court with dimmer lighting and triple the prices. When you walk into these places, pay attention to what is missing. There are no waiters refilling your iced tea. There are no busboys clearing your plates instantly. You do all the work. You stand in line, you order at a digital kiosk, you carry your own tray, and in many cases you clean up your own mess. Yet somehow you are paying $25 for a burger and fries that would cost $12 at a sit-down diner just 1 mile off the strip. For the corporations, this model is a financial miracle. They have slashed their labor costs by nearly 40% compared to a traditional restaurant or buffet. But the genius of the scam goes deeper. In the old days, the casino owned the buffet and took the financial risk. In the food hall model, the casino often acts merely as a landlord. They charge exorbitant rent to third-party vendors, sometimes taking a percentage of every single taco sold. They have completely transferred the risk. If a sushi stand fails, the casino doesn't lose a dime. They just evict them and bring in the next hopeful tenant. They have replaced a loss leader that made you feel generous with a rent-seeking machine that rips you off. They engineered a system where they provide less service, less food, and less comfort, but charge you significantly more money. It's not innovation. It's pure extraction. Part 6. The Luxury Barrier. Purging the locals and families. But wait, you might say. The buffet isn't entirely dead. The Bacchanal at Caesars is still open. The Wynn is still serving crab. And you're right. But go ahead and walk up to the podium. Look at the price tag. Dinner on a weekend is now pushing $80 per person. Once you add tax and tip, a family of 4 is looking at a bill of nearly $400 for a single meal. This brings us to the luxury barrier. This price hike isn't just about inflation. It is a deliberate, constructed wall built to keep certain people out. For decades, the Vegas buffet was the great equalizer. It was the Sunday ritual for thousands of Las Vegas residents. It was the one place where a construction worker could eat the same prime rib as a CEO. It was democratic. But the corporations decided they didn't want democratic anymore. They wanted exclusive. By raising the price floor to nearly $100, they have effectively purged the middle class. They have turned the buffet from a people's feast into an elite experience. The math is cold and calculating. They realized they can make more profit serving 500 rich tourists at $80 a head than serving 2,000 regular folks at $30. It is easier to manage, requires fewer staff, and creates an aura of exclusivity. They are sending a loud and clear message. If you aren't dropping $5,000 at the baccarat table, we don't even want you eating our shrimp. They haven't just raised prices. They have gentrified the very soul of Las Vegas dining, telling the families who built this city that they are no longer welcome at the table they helped construct. Part 7. The death of community. Losing the soul of Vegas. And this leads us to the final, most heartbreaking point. The death of community. When they killed the cheap buffet, they didn't just take away our food. They killed the last communal space in Las Vegas. Think about the old buffet layout. The tables were long and close together. You were forced to rub elbows with strangers. You'd strike up a conversation with the elderly couple next to you while waiting for the roast beef. You'd share tips about which slot machines were paying out. There was a chaotic, noisy, beautiful energy to it. It felt like a town square. It was a place where the us versus the house mentality brought everyone together. Now, look at the food halls. They are designed for isolation. You grab your overpriced sushi box, you find a small, isolated high-top table in the corner, you eat quickly while looking at your phone, and you leave. There is no connection. There is no lingering. It is transactional, cold, and efficient. The architecture itself discourages interaction. We have lost the Vegas vibe, that reckless, generous spirit that made you feel like anything was possible. The casinos have traded their soul for efficiency. They have swapped good luck for pay up. The cheap buffet was the last remnant of the mob-era philosophy that valued the customer's happiness as a path to profit. Now, we're just data points in a spreadsheet, optimized for maximum revenue extraction. The lights on the strip are brighter than ever. The buildings are taller. But the warmth, the human element that made Vegas magical, is gone. So, let's look at the evidence. We started with the original trap, a generous loss leader designed to make us feel like kings. We saw it bloom into the golden age of super buffets, only to be strangled by the corporate shift that valued efficiency over hospitality. We watched them use 2020 as the perfect excuse to execute the kill shot, replacing our beloved feasts with the food hall scam, a soulless cafeteria model designed to cut labor and maximize rent. The death of the buffet is not just about food. It is a symbol of how Las Vegas has lost its way. It is a story of corporate greed dissecting a cultural icon to squeeze out every last penny. They forgot the simple rule that built this city. You can shear a sheep many times, but you can skin it only once. By skinning the customers with $25 burgers and $80 buffets, they might be making record profits this quarter, but they are destroying the loyalty that kept this city alive for 70 years. But I want to hear from you. Are you one of the people who has given up on the Vegas food scene? Do you have a memory of a legendary buffet that is now gone forever? Or do you actually prefer the new food halls? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one of them. If you want to see more deep dives exposing the ugly truth behind the businesses we use every day, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It tells YouTube that you value the truth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next investigation.